Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for checking out the third episode of the Skyward cast. Of course, I am Joey Craig, aka the Skyward King, here with my co-host Delvin Cox. What's going on, man?
Here comes the brand new flavor in your ear. Time for new flavor in your ear. I'm kicking new flavor in your ear. Time for brand new flavor in your ear. Rest in peace, Craig Mack.
I didn't know all those lyrics, so that's the first time I heard that. No, rest in peace. Rest in peace to him. I never even. It didn't really hit me like that, unfortunately. I mean, well, I guess I don't know if that's fortunate or unfortunate, but everyone was, rest in peace, and it was like, well, best wishes to him on the other side. Definitely him and what's his name? Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, Stephen Hawking was big. But
Yeah,
Craig Mack is interesting because that song Flavor Year literally is the hip hop song that started Bad Boy Records. He's Bad Boy's first artist.
Really?
Yeah, he was Bad Boy's first artist, and that Flavor Year remix was big. That was a huge song.
See, I wasn't even old enough to be able to recognize how big that was back then.
Yeah, that song kind of gave Bad Boy the iconic sound. The whole Bad Boy come out and play. That started in that song.
Oh, that's cool. Like I said, I wouldn't even know. Dang. But
he's not like I wouldn't call him a legend, but that his first album is kind of iconic. So I can see why people would be kind of down that he's not here anymore.
The entire album? Only song I know from him is that one song.
Yeah. His first album was really good. It's kind of like, I don't want to call him a one-hit wonder, but
it kind of seems that way because it's like with the other legends from back then, supposed legends. It's like, more hits, Biggie, Tupac, lots of people back then, like even MC Hammer, a bunch of his hits, but one song, you ask people like, what song do you know from Craig Mack? Flavor in Your Ear. That's it.
Yeah, that's like how can I describe? How everybody knows Vanilla Ice for Ice Ice Baby?
Yeah.
Well, Vanilla Ice had other hits, like top #1 singles. It's just that's the one that everybody knows.
Oh, hey, well,
same thing.
That is true. I can't name one other Vanilla Ice song.
I can name 3, I think.
Jeez.
Ice Ice Baby, the one for the Ninja Turtle song, Ninja Rap. And it was one dumb song about a train. I can't remember though.
A train? What the heck? Is it a soundtrack album? Or a soundtrack song?
That song, no, the Ninja Rap song is off the Ninja Turtle soundtrack. I used to love Ninja Turtle, so that song I know off rip. Mm-hmm. Ice Ice Baby was off his first album. He had another single. It was called Train Something. It was a weird song, but it was like a #1 hit. That's when people was loving Vanilla Ice for some reason.
So he was like the Eminem back in the day, huh?
I wouldn't call it that. I wouldn't go that far because M wasn't a one-hit wonder. You could probably call Vanilla Ice a one-hit wonder. Nobody would argue against that.
Yeah.
Even though technically it's not true.
Yeah.
He had more than one hit.
Else? I mean, I guess technically he isn't a one-hit wonder, but it's like if that's all that people know you for, then the technicality doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Because that's all your legacy is Ice Ice Baby. Like I said, I couldn't name one.
Yeah, but I can understand that because I kind of grew up in that era where MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice was popping, Kid and Play. It's a generational thing.
Yeah.
That's like
I can't name one Kid and Play hit. Only thing I know them for is acting.
Wow. They had some pretty. They had a cartoon show.
Did they?
Yeah, in the early 90s. Well, that's back. They was giving rappers cartoon shows like candy. Kid and Play had one. MC Hammer had one.
I did see a VH1 behind the scenes type of episode, type of show, and they were talking about that cartoon. I think I watched it. I don't know.
Kid and Play was pretty big back then.
I don't know. I got to look back into their story, but it's gone now.
The thing about Kid and Play, they was kind of along the lines of like how Will Smith was, where it was kind of like people like kid friendly in a sense, even though it wasn't necessarily kid friendly, it ended up being kid friendly. So people kind of rock with them because of that.
Yeah. So the music was kid friendly, because I know those movies weren't.
It was sort of kid friendly. It was a mix between like kid friendly and old school type of feel to it. Like, you know how old school rappers used to be like, I rock the mic every day, hey, stuff like that. It wasn't just, he wasn't getting like Rakim bars or Nas bars. He was getting like that Curtis Blow type feel.
I don't know one Curtis Blow song.
Oh my God.
You know what? I probably heard a Curtis Blow song, but I just didn't know it was him. I know you thinking, God, this dude doesn't know anything about her.
You never seen Crush Groove?
No, I never. I heard of it, never saw it.
Crush Groove is a hip hop classic. You have to watch Crush Groove. Well, probably never mind. Don't watch Crush Groove. I just thought about that. That's a bad idea. Because if you watch it now, they're like, this movie's terrible. Because it's hip hop cheesiness, but it's certain cool things in the movie. Like Crush Groove was the debut of LL Cool J. So that's cool to see. And plus, he's mad skinny in that movie.
I can appreciate some classic cheesiness. I mean, and especially it's like you say, it's like the introduction of LL Cool J. I mean, I was a big fan of LL Cool J a long time ago.
Yeah, so
but if you kind of fell off.
If you like classic hip hop movies, that's one you definitely should watch. Because it's
I think of that one.
It's like hip hop royalty. Run DMC, the Fat Boys, LL Cool J, Curtis Blow. It's so many. I think is Russell Simmons in the movie? I think he is. It's so many like hip hop legends in that one movie, but it's so low budget.
Hey, so it was like a hood movie, huh?
Yeah, it's cool to watch now because you think about where movies. Well, since now as you think about it, since things like Black Panther's coming out, things like that, the big spectacle of all these black stars in this one big giant movie. Then you watch that movie like, yo, times have changed.
Oh, definitely.
Even compared to New Jack City, which was a big movie at the time it came out, it was a big deal. You look at New Jack City compared to the movies that come out now, you're like, geez, it's so different now.
I mean, but what movies are coming out right now that's like a reflection of true hip hop culture right now? I mean, of course you can tell that it's dramatically different. You got the Lil Uzis and Lil Xans and all these Lils I can't even name. That's just that's totally different. Oh man,
Little trash can.
Yeah, all that garbage. That's what really got me into just like lately. I haven't really been listening to a whole bunch of mainstream stuff. I needed to go back to what, I don't know, just music that makes you feel good. Actually makes you like has some substance. You know what I mean? Listen to a whole bunch of Migos and stuff. I hear about his people taking drugs and stuff. I just can't do that all the time. It's like it just numbs your mind after a while. So I'm a big fan of R&B. I love hip hop, but I mean I love like old like Anita Baker and even more like 2000 late 90s, early 2000s R&B. Like that's like the sweet spot for R&B. You know, that's when Tyrese and Avant and Joe and all those people were out. Of course, like I love to go back and listen to Anita Baker and even like some what genre is Phil Collins? I don't even know.
Phil Collins would be pop, wouldn't he?
Is it?
It's kind of like pop rock, but I don't know how you would describe Phil Collins. To me, he's very soulful. I love Phil Collins, by the way.
Yeah, Phil Collins has some hits.
But
love his music.
Now that we're talking about Phil Collins, We can talk about one of our topics that we want to discuss.
We have a topic that relates to Phil Collins?
Well, what the music that Phil Collins did?
What is that?
Phil Collins' music had an urban feel to it. Don't you think?
Not at all. What song does Phil Collins have that had a urban feel or
the soulful
like a crossover?
Phil Collins. More black people bump in the air tonight than white people.
Listen, if you were talking about Michael Bolton or something, I'd understand. No. Definitely a soulful feel from him.
Nah.
But
you're comparing Michael Bolton to Phil Collins?
You don't think Michael Bolton has a very soulful feel?
Not like Phil Collins. Now, Phil Collins has his like, let's say white songs, but Phil Collins is very soulful. Bone was remixing his songs, and they didn't change nothing. They just added their verses to the songs.
That just meant that they found a song, one song of his that worked. And even that song, because they used it, it took them more of away from a hip hop feel, like, you know, and more into like an alternative type of vibe. It felt like a kind of a soft rock hip hop crossover. It wasn't because it just matched to me.
Phil Collins is one of the most sampled artists by hip hop artists. Every hip hop artist that did in there.
Come on. Where are all these sampled hits, man? I can't think of other than that. And I think I may have heard In the Air Tonight somewhere.
Everywhere. Everywhere.
Give me some examples.
DMX.
Oh, I don't listen to DMX like that.
Oh my gosh.
Only thing
his first album.
Listen. Only from DMX, only thing I know of is dang. Well, I can't think of one. Let's see. What is it? Like, what's that song where he's talking about y'all gonna make me lose my mind? I can't remember the name.
I'm talking about Party Up.
See, I never knew that either. I just listened to the song. I never knew the name of it.
This is bad. This is really bad.
Hey, look, this is kind of just what it is, man. I wasn't from back then. Like I said, I was more of an R&B type of dude. I liked hip hop, but back then, if I had the choice, I probably would have went for R&B.
Okay, I'm gonna give you just some of the artists and the songs that's been sampled by Phil Collins samples. Okay. Children of the Ghetto, which was produced by Phil Collins, was sampled by Currency, Lil Snoop, and I don't know who this dude is. Okay, the one we were talking about.
Oh, yeah, he died.
Yeah. There was another dude, I know who he was, so I don't even mention him. In the Air Tonight, the song we just talked about, was sampled by Nas in One Mic, Tupac and the Outlaws staring through my
One Mic.
Yeah.
Where did the sample come in there? I like that song.
It's in the doo. That's in the Air Tonight. They just sped it up. And DMX, of course. Now hold up. Here goes some more. Easy Lover, which is a famous Phil Collins song, was sampled by Jim Jones and Max B in the intro. That's a dope Jim Jones song. Wale in Artistic Integrity and BITE by Fabulous. Another Phil Collins song that's famous by everybody know, Another Day in Paradise, sampled by Wiz Khalifa, Action Bronson, and Superfly.
I love that song.
The list goes on and on from hip-hop artists who've sampled Phil Collins.
See, but you notice, right? A lot of those artists that you named, most likely, like either they were like underground to like third tier, or maybe they even, I'm sure, like probably some of those songs probably came out during like their mixtape phase. Like
One Mic 100% did not come out during
No. Okay, look, that's one song though. That's one song. And look, the sample was so like I didn't even know that was a sample.
Phil Collins is soulful, man. Oh, that's the whole point. People can accuse Phil Collins of what we were going to talk about, which we still haven't even got to yet.
Wait. So this was a way of getting into.
Yes, you just completely ruined it.
That was a terrible.
That was
segue.
perfect. Perfectly segued.
It was so unrelated because the man is not soulful in the same way. Look,
who's not soulful in the same way?
Listen, the topic is for people like me that did not even see this coming because it's so unrelated.
Completely unrelated.
It is the topic of whether Bruno Mars could be seen as a culture vulture. Which really took off, I think, sometime over the weekend, because some people, I think it was some website called the Grapevine or something like that. They were having some type of roundtable discussion about whether Bruno Mars is a culture vulture. I mean, it went deep. It was a real deep conversation. Some people were having some points that had me thinking like, he's not too far off from Miley Cyrus, but I mean, I can definitely see it's like, though it was similar in how they started out one way and then took a totally different route. I think it's just like you can see that it's not the same. It's the vibe is more of one of appreciation, like the culture appreciation versus like I'm coming in to take what you guys have to cash in, and then I'll toss you guys to the side when I'm done and ready to go back to what I'm known for. That's what Miley Cyrus did. And so I know we had this conversation. We were kind of going in the
you ruined Disney World. Just let it be known. And I told somebody messaged me like, "Hey, are you gonna talk about this on your podcast? I want to hear your opinion on this." I just sent them I screenshot it the last part where I said you ruined Disney World for me.
Oh Lord.
And sent them down and is this an answer to your question? And they
ignore my phone.
Like,
oh man, just go ahead and give your point real quick.
Because he was going ham on me and telling me that I was wrong, and everything he just said, I literally said, and he was ready to have me lynched because I didn't agree with that point. Because my whole thing is this, like he said earlier, Miley Cyrus can be, and I think is a culture vulture because of the fact that she 100% adapted to hip hop music, tried to use it to her advantage, and then when it didn't work for her, she turned her back on it. And see, I knew we was coming on to talk about this on the episode, so I did my research. Bruno Mars is different because Bruno Mars grew up around that music. He's from a family of musicians.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different types of, when you're a musician, you listen and learn from different types of music. So he learned the art form because that's what he listened to. When you grow up in that environment, you grow up around musicians, you're gonna listen to all types of music. That's why perfect example is Nas. Why Nas a lot of times have soulful tracks because his dad was a musician.
Mm-hmm.
So when you grow up around that type of environment, it's gonna adapt to that. And Bruno Mars kind of shows more of an appreciation for the art form in terms of that instead of being a person who's just trying to use it towards his advantage. And I think, because I was listening to what the girl was saying, the comment that got me was, well, I was just tuned her completely out, where she was like, if Michael Jackson was to come up in this generation, he wouldn't survive. I'm like, that's absurd.
You know what? When I heard that, well, honestly, I didn't really find how exactly those two things were relevant, like how they were like connected, really like that. But the thing is, if he did come out right now with that type of music, I don't know if it would translate as well. I mean, we saw that with his last couple albums. They weren't popping like that. His albums before were big hits. Invincible didn't jump.
But you got to put it in context. If Michael Jackson comes out right now as Michael Jackson, and we have not heard a sound like Michael Jackson before, you don't think that people would flock towards that? Like, let's say, for example, you have not heard Thriller or any of these other Michael Jackson classics, and there has not been anyone to like ushered that kind of era in. So so all the people who were influenced by Michael Jackson essentially wasn't influenced by Michael Jackson. And
but
he
like
comes in.
his
It's hard to say
sound
that.
was like, yeah, it is hard to say because his sound, while different, was heavily influenced by what was hot at the time. Even like though the songs like they kind of took like it kind of took more of a pop rock fusion, but it was pop and rock at the time. So pop and rock now is totally different. So you bring that out now, I don't know if if people can really jump with that sound. You know what I mean? So in that way, I totally understand. That's just like
But this is the problem with that thing right there.
What?
We're taking into consideration that Michael Jackson will be coming out in this generation with his old stuff. This is Michael Jackson coming out with this technology. Can you imagine him doing Thriller with today's technology?
But it's all we can do is guess, though. I mean, all we can do is assume that he would have the talent and the know-how to. I mean, and maybe he would come out and just still be just as big, but with modern sound. But we don't know. So that's where I thought that whole comment was like, where is this even relevant in this argument? We're talking about Bruno Mars. Don't even bring that whole would Michael Jackson survive? That's just like if Biggie and Tupac were alive right now, would they still be relevant? I don't know. They could have fell off shortly after we hit 2000.
Well, since you mentioned that, I'm gonna hit my controversial take. I do not put Biggie in my top 5.
I honestly wouldn't put Biggie or Tupac in my top 5. I think they have some major songs, but neither one of them really hit that top note for me. But that's personal preference.
I would put Tupac in because Tupac has a bigger catalog, and like all of his stuff, like his best stuff came out before he died. Like for example, "Me Against the World" was kind of considered like a almost type classic. "All Eyes on Me" is considered a classic, and even what's the last one? Machiavelli. I'm missing a Pac album, but I can't think of the name of it right now. People consider Machiavelli a classic. I don't think Machiavelli is a classic, but there's those who think of that. So I can see people's explanation for Pac being there. Biggie only essentially had 2 albums. And granted, one of those albums was a double disc, and it was great. I don't think we got to hear the best of Biggie. You can make an argument. You can make an argument that you got to hear the best of Pac because Pac recorded so much music.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's still stuff coming out about Pac now.
Yeah,
it's like he recorded so much music in a short time span. It's not like we actually got the chance to miss Pac because every chance you look, oh, there's a new Pac album coming out. Oh, there's a new Pac album coming out. Like, where's all these songs coming from? Whereas Big, you can tell we're Big, like, okay, we're done with Big songs. That's all we got.
I don't even think it was such a good idea to put some of those songs out that they had for Tupac, because some songs they weren't actually released by him. One, because he just had so much content, he had to pick the best of what he thought was the best at the time. But also is because it's like this is like second tier stuff. It's like I don't know if this is the best of the best. So in some of it, I thought, well, maybe we shouldn't have heard this, because while people gravitated toward it because it was Tupac, a lot of those songs that came out on those later albums after he passed, they weren't considered classics. So I think it would have been better if they would have just left some of those like to never be heard. But we never really finished the main topic. We kind of went off on some Tupac and Biggie, but it's all good. Go ahead.
Well, let's get your take on the Bruno Mars situation, because I know I talked about it a little bit, but I want to get your take on it because I don't want to say too much more about it without hearing your opinion on it.
I mean, my opinion on it is basically what you said. I mean, because I understand. I mean, I understand the energy behind wanting to be protective of genres that Black people originated, simply because of a history of what Black people create being stolen, right? So when they see someone else coming in and actually doing well, it's like, hey, wait a minute. we want to make sure, we want to let you know who, I guess, kind of who runs it. You know what I mean? So I understand that energy, but then to also kind of treat him like he's a culture vulture just because he's kind of embracing the culture and putting his own spin on it, I don't think that's right either. Whereas before, see, now I know we had a conversation originally, and my argument was like, kind of seems like a vulture, but I mean, where you go from cultural, appreciator to vulture is, I guess, really in how you step. You know what I mean? The moves you make. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's definitely not a Miley Cyrus. And how you saw, like, you could see that coming from a mile away. And it wasn't even that Miley wasn't being successful. She was highly successful. She was getting support she was rapping with will.i.am. She was, her and Mike Will were making hits. So she was doing big things, but it was just like, I got the hype that I wanted. I got the millions and that kind of that refresh for my career that I needed. Now I can dump y'all and just, throw the whole genre under the bus and go back to my clean model. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, right after she was done, she went to wearing white dresses and singing country music that kind of sound what is it? Not Christian music based, but it kind of had like a spiritual vibe to it. Like she kind of went on her whole. She played it by the book, so that I totally understand. But I can't really side with the people that say he is a culture vulture because I just think he's a dude that appreciates the culture and kind of try to put his own spin on it. Yeah,
okay,
so
I got a question for you. I'm gonna name 3 artists. And I want you to tell me are they a culture vulture or not.
Go ahead.
Okay. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
First artist, Justin Timberlake.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't call him a culture vulture. I mean, like, I feel like he was not really brought into it. I know he admired, I don't know, the R&B music of the past. So one, he was heavily influenced by that, and I don't know, him working deeply with Timbaland, that really also really put a hip hop R&B spin on his music. So it wasn't even him just trying to steal. It was that you had Timbaland in the background really kind of setting his course in a lot of ways musically. So I wouldn't really call him that. Now people felt like, okay, well, man, you over here benefiting from Black culture in a lot of ways, but then when Black issues come up, you want to stay silent, so that's where people start to say, oh, okay, so you're a vulture then. So, you can benefit from us, from the stuff that we make, but you don't want to speak up for us when, I guess they would say that, you're a person of privilege. I know that's going to be a little controversial to some, but yeah, it's like they would say you're a privileged person. And so you could actually speak up and have people actually hear what you're saying more. But no, he doesn't really speak up. So, I mean, on that point, I feel like, he could have done a little bit more, but it's not necessarily his job either. That's a whole nother complicated topic, but no. Okay. I wouldn't call him a culture vulture.
Second person. And this one's going to be a little weird to ask you, but I want your opinion on it. Fat Joe.
Fat Joe? Nah, what is he, like Puerto Rican or something?
Yeah, he's Puerto Rican. He raps about, he literally says the N-word in his rap songs.
I just, I don't know. I feel like growing up where he grew up, I mean, he just kind of feels like some people they draw that line where it's just like, it's like, hey, we're Puerto Rican, you're Black. There's that line in between. And some people feel like, like we're kind of like sort of
family.
Yeah, like we're connected.
Same thing.
And so I really feel like that's where his mindset is, and just how he grew up in his neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like they're all kind of, I don't know, within the same pool. So yeah. So no, I wouldn't call him that. I just think that's clear.
To be clear, I asked that question because not necessarily that he gets that kind of vibe on him, but the next person I say does get that sometimes.
But
And you probably can figure out who the next person I'm going to say is. But go ahead and see what you're going to say.
Dang, I forgot what I was about to say. No, go ahead. Next one. Okay. Next one.
The last person I was going to say is Eminem.
Eminem?
Yes.
I wouldn't say that at all.
Eminem does get that. He gets the Culture Vulture thing, and there was a whole thing with Benzino where he was saying, and the whole thing, I don't know if you remember this, but the whole thing came out with the tape, him calling the black women B, well, Pacific black woman a B, and saying very disrespectful things about her in a song that never was released.
Oh yeah, I think he was talking about that in some music I was listening to. Yeah, and he was apologizing and saying like he was just going through. What was it? I think it was like back in the day. Like
yeah, he was like a young kid. He was like 17, 18. He was talking about his girlfriend who cheated on him essentially.
Yeah, she cheated on him, and so he came out and started saying some some borderline racist stuff, but he was just saying it out of anger. From what he was saying, he was like, yeah, I finally found my he felt like he finally found his space and thought like, he was, I don't know, I guess up there. And then to see that, I don't know. I mean, you know where I'm going with that. I mean, basically he did it out of anger. So, I mean, I don't know. That's some old trash. He apologized for it. He did it as a kid. I'm not really I wouldn't knock him for that. I know some people would, because it's like, oh, once you say it, it's like that really shows your true colors. So we can't really trust you like that. But I don't know. He was a kid. And I think I would say he's a culture vulture, definitely, because it's like he's another person who was just inspired by the environment that he was brought up in. That's just what he knew. Like that's people used to call him a wigger, but that's the environment he grew up in. Those are the people that he grew up around, and probably the people that he was inspired by musically. So I wouldn't call him that. No, I mean, he actually speaks up on issues. Like his last album, like he was actually talking. He was speaking on a lot of issues that people would have said, okay, well, hey, Justin Timberlake should have been speaking on this stuff too. I mean, some people said we're actually getting on him because they said his last album was a little too politically. I
didn't like his last album, but it was not for his political stance. It was because it was trash.
The sound was, a lot of it was so generic.
It sounded like Dre didn't produce a single damn song off of it.
I don't know what was going on with that. I mean, but in the album before, I think his previous album was Recovery, right?
Yeah, I think it was Recovery. That one was pretty decent.
That was a fire album. And I didn't really have
that stuff. That was pretty good.
What was that?
The one with the last album with Rap God and all that stuff on it, that was pretty good.
Oh, that was the last album.
It was called the Marshall Mathers LP 2.
I didn't like that one.
Oh, you didn't like that one?
No, I didn't like that. I loved Recovery though.
I liked that one, and I didn't like Recovery.
Oh, Recovery had some hits. That song with Pink, Won't Back Down, Spacebound, Love the Way You Lie. All those, it had all those kind of hits on there, man. That was actually one of my favorite albums of his, other than the Eminem Show and Encore.
It felt too by the book Eminem to me.
Really? By the book?
Even though Marshall Mathers LP 2 is literally Eminem by the book.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of felt like a reflection of his mental space at the time. I love an album that really kind of gives you a window into an artist's mind at the time. You know what I mean? So it wasn't, because the Marshall Mathers LP, the first one, that one scared me as a kid. it was a little too dark, man. Like I hated that music. Like music like Guilty Conscience and I don't know, just all those other, even Stan to a point. It kind of had like a creepy vibe because you could actually, I was really sensitive to that kind of energy back then.
You listen to DMX. That explains a lot.
It's just I just didn't like too dark. I don't know. It's just
that explains a lot.
Vibes like that. Yeah, I just didn't really care for him too much. But I don't know. Later on in life, that kind of changed. It was like I came to be able to appreciate being able to see into, like I said, music that actually gives you a window into someone's mind, what they're going through, and really paints that picture for you. You know, a lot of people don't really do it like that anymore. So I really appreciate it now. But yeah. Okay, where are we going? Because we kind of stopped for a second. We know, man, you know, like half of this whole, the first part, it was like, that was supposed to be like the, hey, so how were things going for you this week? And we kind of went off on this whole thing about music, which is cool. I mean, we kind of freestyled it this time.
It was good.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, the whole thing about the Bruno Mars didn't go as deep as we thought it was. Well, I thought it was,
didn't need to.
Yeah, because at first it was like we were on opposite sides, but then I started to see it for what it really was. You know what I mean? He's definitely not a culture vulture.
Yeah, I think, it'd have been more interesting if we both had different views, but then we ended up having the same point of view, so it wasn't much to say about it.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, like I wrote a whole thing down and I was about to go over it. Like what I was talking about before, like I understand where people come from, like when they're really trying to check everybody that gets into genres or becomes a part of something that Black people created because of the history of Black people creating stuff and just having it completely ripped from under them and rebranded. And it's like, well, you guys never really had anything to do with it. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, you feel like you got to play gatekeeper. I mean, some people say that Black people don't play gatekeeper enough, and that's why we still get left out of a lot of things. You know what I mean? So when somebody else comes through, especially in the case of like with the music that Bruno Mars makes, you know, he's throwing it back. You know what I mean? Just he's to old school music. But a lot of Black people, if they were to come through, you wouldn't get that same mainstream appeal. You know, and some people are trying to figure out, okay, so what's the deal behind that? Is it because it's like, okay, when you put that music with a Black face, it just doesn't have the same appeal? Or, you know what I mean? And maybe that's the reason why, if you get someone who has more of a soulful approach, or like or comes through with the old school music and it's like Bruno Mars, it's like they're was it racially ambiguous? So it's like it makes people feel like, okay, yeah, we can get in without, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Right. Some of that I agree with, and some I don't, in the sense where I feel like Black people have a habit of just giving up on the genres. It just, like for example, we don't really have R&B music no more.
You see, I know I hear that, but that's just like someone saying like, oh, if someone said we don't have real rock anymore because people that used to make rock don't really, or a certain group of people don't really follow those trends, but trends evolve over time. Hip hop evolved over time, R&B evolved over time, rock evolved over time. There's new sounds all the time. Everyone is creating something different so that when they come in, they can completely change the game. And so sound changes over time, because when you do create a sound that changes the game, people want to follow. And then another innovator comes and then it changes again and again and again and again and again. So it happens with everybody. So it's not exclusive to Black people. It happens within every genre. It's not that they necessarily just,
because rock still is considered rock. You can still tell rock is rock. They still make rock songs.
Yeah, but it's not the same kind of rock at all.
It's not necessarily the same type of rock, but it's still rock. R&B has literally disappeared.
Oh, no. From mainstream radio, yes, it has disappeared. I mean, Joe just recently came out with an album, and it's classic R&B. No one was listening to TGT came out with one of the best R&B albums ever back in 2013. Nobody was really appreciating it like that. It still did pretty well. I think it actually went gold, but they're still making the music.
But that's
it's just not on. It's not on. But the same can be said about a lot of other genres that used to be hot back in the day. Now the hot thing is pop music and mumble rap. So those are the mainstream genres. That's just how that goes. Genres become hot, they fall off, new ones replace it. So what traditional hip hop, traditional R&B, traditional rock, they're not as hot anymore.
But it's still hip hop. But whether you like it or not, bubble rap is still rap.
That's rap. Some people draw the line. Okay, that's rap. This is hip hop. You know, so it's like Joey Badass is like that's hip hop.
Yeah,
Kendrick, hip hop.
You still have that lane for hip hop. Hip hop hasn't disappeared. You still have like matter of fact, to be honest with you, hip hop is kind of bigger than bubble rap. Think about it.
In what way?
The top 3 artists are hip hop artists: J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Drake.
No. Wait, hold up. Drake, I'd consider him a rap artist because if you listen to a lot of his music lately, it's borderline mumble rap. Okay, he puts more of a sophisticated spin on it, but I wouldn't really put him up there with the best of them.
See, the thing about Drake is this. Drake, to me, my opinion on Drake is kind of like Jay-Z. When everybody was hating on Jay-Z for what Jay-Z was doing before Jay-Z dropped the blueprint. You get what I'm saying?
What were they hating on him for?
People didn't think, there was a period of time where people was like, he trying to sound like big. Every other verse he says is another big verse. He was getting a lot of flack. All he does is kind of like jock people's style. Jay was getting hated on before the blueprint dropped and the takeover and all that stuff. A lot of people don't realize the takeover wasn't only about Nas. Everybody just makes it about Nas. Takeover was a response to everybody who was throwing shots at Jay at the time. Like the first, matter of fact, if you really listen to the takeover, it's only one verse about Nas. The second verse. The first verse is about Prodigy from Mobb Deep. Who him and Prodigy been beefing forever. The second verse is about Nas. The third verse is about Nas, Prodigy, and everybody who ever took shots at Jay. Because everybody at that time, before the blueprint drop, was taking shots at Jay left and right. And it's kind of the same thing with Drake. Drake's very kind of similar to that point. Only difference is that Drake really hasn't risen to that level yet where you can be like, you know what, damn, this guy's the man. There's no question about it.
Well, he'll never get there now because one, he came through as selling himself as a guy who writes all his stuff when it's just kind of, it's really become obvious that he doesn't really do his own thing the way he made it seem. You know what I mean? So yeah, he has a whole bunch of writers. And, you know, and the point is, people wouldn't have had an issue with him having writers if he would have just said that was the case. Like, people know Kanye doesn't write all his stuff. You know what I mean? People know Dr. Dre probably didn't write 99% of his stuff. Yeah, you know what I mean? He might have put a word in a couple, you know, here and there, but the point is that people still loved it for the energy that he brought to the game. But if you say like, you know what, yeah, I'm writing better lyrics than blah, 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 you know, all this stuff, then people are going to really hold you to that. So when you come out as like, okay, well, yeah, you might be writing some of the lyrics, but you're sitting in a room full of dudes brainstorming all the lyrics for your next album, you lose a lot of respect. So that really put, you know, dirt on his name, you know, as far as, you know, so he'll probably never be considered a hip hop legend and the same level of J. Cole or Kendrick, because you really know, like, when something comes from them, it's really coming from their mind. You know what I mean? So now you just kind of put him on like a pop level. So he's like a Rihanna or, you know, a Bieber. Yeah. So he's like kind of parroting what the writer or the, you know, the message that the writer is having for him. So he might influence it a little bit. I think he might even write some of the stuff maybe a little more than others, but still I wouldn't put him on that level.
I think what he messed up at was when all that stuff came out about him not writing his stuff, he should have came out with a straight hip hop album.
He came out with
no, he came out with good music, but he didn't come out with a hip hop album.
It wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered because unless everyone would still know it's not from you. It's like, it's good. I wonder who wrote this. And that's what people were saying when he came out with tracks. It was like, this sounds like this person. Or I wonder if maybe even Kendrick wrote some, or not Kendrick, but who was the dude? What was that dude who was writing stuff for him?
I can't remember that dude's name because
I can't remember
that dude's name. It's not only that, because that's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily buy the ghostwriting stuff, because if that dude was writing all of Drake's lyrics, supposedly, he need to keep them stuff for himself. Because I've heard some of his songs. They're not that great.
Oh, no. See, but the thing is, if you listen to a lot of those songs, you can tell.
You can hear it.
Yeah, you can definitely. It's his delivery sucks. It's real stale. But you can definitely hear that he wrote a lot of Drake stuff from around that time, especially like if you're reading this, It's Too Late, from that time period. Yeah, he wrote a lot of that stuff. And then they recorded him actually kind of he was rapping it over the tracks, like giving, he was tracing the whole path for Drake. Like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna rap it out here. You kind of improvise here, but this is how I want you to sing it. This is how I want you to rap it. I mean, so he's been exposed. The whole, the door has been blown off. He should have just come out and just said, yeah, I do have some people write some of my stuff, but I do write some stuff, because he got writing credits on other people's songs. I don't know exactly how much he did, but I do believe he writes some stuff. But now it's like we don't know if you write anything. We don't know what you do. So now, like I said, now he's kind of on the level of Amigos person, or, I don't even know what they do, because they might write a lot of their stuff. You know what I mean? So who knows where to place him? He's kind of at the level of a pop artist, to be honest.
I'm almost sure the Migos write that trash.
It's
not like what they're doing is rocket science.
Well, some of them they have some fire bars sometimes. You know what I mean?
They are 100. If you tell me the Migos have ghostwriters, I don't even know what to say about that. Like,
hey, look, some of those people, they have the sound, but they just don't know how to put the lyrics together. As whack as they may be, that trash is not simple. Believe me, I listen to some of that stuff and be like, I could do this. And then I sound like garbage. I have some freaking preschool bars. I mean, it's terrible. Oh man.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah. I don't even know how we got here. I'm lost again. We've been freestyling this whole podcast.
It's a good episode.
Yeah, it is. It is a really good episode. It's cool to kind of episode. We didn't even get to Nintendo Direct or Inside Xbox or any of those.
Don't worry about it. I have an idea. I have a good idea, I think.
What's the idea?
I'll tell you offline.
All right, so you think we should close it out?
Yeah, we can close it out.
All right. Well, hey, we freestyled a little bit. It was still a good time. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the third episode of the Skyward Cast. It was delayed a little bit, but I'm gonna have it out there. Well, obviously, I'm gonna have it out. If you hear me saying this, it's already out. But I hope you enjoyed. And hey, I'll talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Should have said we'll talk to y'all later, but it's all good. I'm gonna leave that in there.